Hey geeks, what's going on? My name is Brandon. Welcome back to the Geek XP. We are here for our next Steven Universe episode review. I do apologize for the lateness of this. Last week, my entire week was booked and I had no free time to sit down and do any recording. So here we are now. Today's review is on the episode Raising the Barn. We'll just sort of go over the main events of the episode and then I'll just sort of jump into my review. So while the basic events of this episode are actually pretty base and simple, it's more of the character dynamic change, which is the real meat of this episode. So in this, Steven is still waiting on Connie's phone call from the events of the last episode, and it's kind of driving him a little insane. He's waiting for her to call, and when he finally gets a phone call, he is really excited, and he's just like, hey, it's Connie, no expectations, let her say what she needs to say. And it's Peridot, who's super exuberant and high energy as always. And he hasn't spoken to Peridot or Lapis since he's gotten back on Homeworld. They were sort of absent for when the Jasper and Aquamarine were there kidnapping people, and when he got captured, they sort of didn't know what was going on. So Lapis and Peridot and Pumpkin call him on the phone, and he sort of tells them about it, and when he mentions escaping and running away from the diamonds, Lapis sort of goes into full panic mode. Steven goes to the barn to talk to them, and Lapis is getting all their stuff ready. She is ready, Peridot, we need to leave the planet immediately. She has gone full panic, recovery from abuse and terror mode. She doesn't want to have to do anything with this. She's sure the diamonds are coming, there's going to be another war, I'm not getting stuck in it. She's ready to bounce. Meanwhile, Peridot is a little bit, she's like, what about this thing and that thing? And Lapis says, well, just take it with us, it doesn't matter, we gotta go. So what ends up happening is that they're getting ready to go, and Peridot seems really nervous. Steven is sad, but he's understands if you don't want to stay, we can't make you, but we're gonna miss you. But then Peridot's like, well, where's Pumpkin? So most of the episode then takes place with Steven trying to help Peridot find Pumpkin, but while they're looking for him, they're talking about what it's going to mean for Peridot to be living out in space on this floating piece of rock with a barn on it. And at every turn, she's trying to find a bright side, and at every turn, it just sort of gets reminded to her just how difficult this is going to be, because Peridot really has embraced life on Earth. She got the farm going, she's really enjoyed that, and like how Steven showed her, there are many beautiful things on Earth, and she is totally in love with her new home. And so it's very visible throughout this episode that she doesn't want to leave, although she doesn't say it directly. By the end of their little search, they find Pumpkin hiding in the fields by the barn, and once they do, Lapis is like, okay, let's go, and picks up the barn again with her hydrokinesis, drains everything, and while they're going, Peridot's like, Pumpkin doesn't want to go, and Lapis is like, doesn't know any better, let's go, and then Peridot's like, I don't want to go. And in their discussion, we see that and Lapis is like, why didn't you tell me? And it's sort of revealed that if something comes up that Peridot thinks Lapis won't like, she just doesn't bring it up or talk about it or just lies about it. And so it's just sort of revealing about their relationship. Peridot obviously knows that Lapis has been through a lot, and she's very sensitive to that and doesn't want to upset her, and so has avoided most lines of conflict with her, just avoiding them outright so that she's happy, which is very sweet, but then creates sort of an unhealthy dynamic, which comes to a head in this moment where Lapis wants to leave Earth and Peridot doesn't. Peridot tries to convince Lapis with a very heartfelt plea to stay and fight for Earth no matter whether they win or lose, that this new home of theirs is worth fighting for, and it would be better to stay here and fight for it than leave and just float on a rock until time doesn't exist. Which I thought was really touching, and I was glad that we got to see Peridot sort of express her love for her new home in such a nice, sort of poetic way to Lapis, and I was hoping it would get through to her. But Lapis has been through a lot, and she just does not want to put herself in that situation again. The last war got her trapped in a mirror for thousands of years, and then got caught up in the stuff between Homeworld and the Crystal Gems anyway, and she just really doesn't want to go through it again. And so leaves on her own, which I was really kind of bummed out. I mean, I can understand why, but I thought it was sort of, I don't want to use the word unfair for Peridot, because obviously this is important to Lapis. But now poor Peridot is left on Earth by herself. I mean, she still has Pumpkin, but Lapis sort of took the home that they had built together and bailed. she didn't try to sit down and try to figure out how she and Peridot could work it out. She just sort of left. I imagine we're going to see her come back. I'd like to see some like heroic triumphant return. Maybe she drops the barn on the diamonds or whatever during whatever big fight's coming up. That would be kind of funny. But yeah, so Lapis leaves and Peridot goes back to living in Steven's bathroom, which is really sad and sort of leads into the main arcs for some of these other episodes in this Steven bomb. I think out of the episodes we've gotten out of this show, I think this one is, while good, is somewhere in the spectrum of episodes around middling. It's not like one of like sort of like, I don't like think that there's any like throwaway filler episodes for this show. They each build in some way towards someone's development in some way or the other, even to some degree. I think we're retreading some familiar ground for Peridot and Lapis. I think the big moments and the big things being addressed in this episode are getting a very explicit message from Peridot about how she feels about the Earth now. If there was any wonder about that in terms of her loyalty to Homeworld or her previous diamond, and then when it comes to Earth, crystal gems or no, we now know where Peridot stands on that. And we knew that Lapis has a lot of trauma, a lot of abuse done to her via the crystal gems, their war with Homeworld and the Homeworld gems. And when it came to a head, and when it became like fight or flight, Lapis chose flight above her new friends, above her home with Peridot. I have to imagine that Lapis, she was by herself, trapped in that mirror for thousands of years. I think she's going to find, even running away, that living by herself on the barn in space is going to be pretty much the same as living in the mirror. It's going to be very lonely. I think she doesn't realize how much she values her friendship and family with Peridot and Pumpkin and Steven. So I like to think that she will come back. I think these character arcs were important. I don't know if compared to the other episodes in this arc, if it's my favorite, but I do think it's important for these characters to get their moments, and does lead up into the next episode, which is interesting to watch. But let me know what you guys thought about this episode. Maybe it was your favorite. Maybe Peridot and Lapis are your favorite characters. I think this really tugs at the heartstrings in terms of their personal, their interpersonal relationship. But let me know what you guys think. My hair is all over the place. Let me know what you guys think. Comment your thoughts on the episode down below. Like this video if you enjoyed, and subscribe for more future content. You guys have been with some Geek XP. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, stay geeky, my friends.